Alright, so I started recording at this point because I just had a match, which I may post like a blooper thing at the end of the year or something. But I just had a match where a fellow player tried to trade me mid for the support role. I was support, they were mid, and they wanted to swap roles. And I said no, because I'm a support main, and of course I'm doing this series. And so they proceeded to pick Bacchus as their mid lane, played way too aggressively, and then blamed other people for their inability to fight a sole mid lane as a Bacchus mid lane. And keep in mind, they built full mid lane. They built no protections, no nothing on Bacchus. They just built a full damage Bacchus, which itself isn't necessarily bad, but with the playstyle being so aggressive against a ranged enemy mid, namely Soul, that wasn't going to work out, and we also had a tier jungle versus an Awilish jungle, so the tier was being massively out-rotated by the Awilish, and there was just no way. The point of that, though, is that I am now going to start recording from just before God's Selection, because that trade was offered almost immediately before I had even pressed the record button, so I declined it and then started recording. But I am now going to be starting my recordings slightly earlier. Second thing is, you'll notice that this is being posted on Saturday. That is because I actually had a different video prepped and ready to upload. Actually, it was uploading to YouTube yesterday, but Monster Cat was claiming about a minute of the video because apparently the Crab Rave theme music, which I had, of course, attached to my profile, as you do, was apparently like 1 minute or so where there wasn't enough audio going on, where it was just 1 minute of their music, so they claimed it. So, yeah. This is basically a quote, re-recording, unquote, just because I don't want to have to remove an entire minute of the audio of my video just for a silly copyright claim. So I switched my music pack to a SMITE theme, and that should be in the background now for the music theme attached to my profile without any kind of problem. So that's what I've done there. So this is basically a re-recorded episode 2. And then of course we had that nightmare game last game. That was terrible. Alright, let's see. Morgana is probably solo if I had to take a guess, unless it's Hera. They don't have a whole lot of self-healing, so I'm going to go with good old Sentinel's Gift here. We're going to go for Gauntlet of Thebes. They have enough balanced damage where I think that'll be better. I think we'll go with Horrific Emblem. I think that shell is not quite as strong as maybe I'm requiring for it anymore, practically speaking. At least not in the early game. So it also looks like pretty soon I'll have to update the Kepri videos and probably this series as well, because pretty soon at some point, I don't know if it's going to be at the end of this season. Let me rephrase that. I don't know if it's going to be this season or in the next season that they're planning on removing boots and shoes and just giving everyone a default plus 18% movement speed from where they're at, so it'll be whatever base movement speed, but they're going to increase everyone's base movement speed and remove boots and shoes, which I'm fine with. I think that's a good idea overall. I honestly do. It'll streamline the game slightly. Remove the need for shoes, which is something of a building hiccup that I'm not overly fond of. I've dealt with it just because it's MOBA tradition, but it's not necessarily something that I really am fond of. Pardon me. Just gonna pass through here really quick, and this is not a great matchup for us, but it should be fine. Alright. Alright. Well, I almost died. This is not good. Do I have enough to purchase even level 2? Yeah, we have enough for level 2. Alright, good. So we'll buy that really quick. And buy health potions. Okay, that's pretty big news. That means Pele can rotate over and actually do something really awesome, which is important. and run back as quick as I can. Fortunately, Ne Zha was able to acquire the totem, which is hugely helpful. Actually, the Ne Zha versus Morgana matchup does favor Ne Zha slightly. He has a self-heal for one thing. Second thing, he's much better in 1v1 scenarios than Morgana is. It's a good thing we have Janus there, honestly. Alright, this should be fairly interesting. I'm gonna go with support Janus here. Okay, he's fine. There's Hera. There's Daji. Gonna come back over here because it looks like Ganesh is still over here, so I should probably rinse and repeat the same. Oh, he's gone. Alright. Alright. We're fine. Oop.
Okay. I'm on it.
There's Ganesh. Alright. Do you have Blink? No. Alright. You've got Shell, though. I mean, you're wasting your time right now. Good. I'm really just trying to hit level 5 right now. Gonna let him complete clear these. Doesn't need me right now.
This is all part of my plan.
Alright, yeah, we can go for Void. Okay, nice. Good, okay. And
Hi.
go ahead and slap you so I can pull some minion aggro for free. Good, that's fine. I'm keeping up relatively well with Ganesh. Actually, I'm slightly ahead of him by like 20 gold or something ridiculous like that. Okay, good. No, that's not worth it. We did some damage to her, we scared her off, it's fine. Nice. Alright, he doesn't really need me, but I don't have really much opportunity at this particular moment to go back because I actually need about 100 more gold, and I don't want to sell my health potions. I'm going to need those. So I'm just going to rotate to mid. Going to help out with these harpies. If I hit level 5, I might go back. Oh, they already have the harpies. Okay. That's fine. I know what he wants. I'm not going to give it to him so easily. That was interesting. Alright, still not quite there. I'm just shy of level 5 here. I really need to hit level 5. I'm going to go back actually to mid and see if I can absorb that level 5 right over here. I can ult to Rama if I need to. There we go. Alright. Now I'm going to go back. I understand that I have full stats, but I also have my ult, and I need to get my Gauntlet of Thebes so I can start stacking this. We're going to grab some wards, and we're going to grab another couple of potions. And we're going to go ahead and ult to Janus just because it's more convenient. It'll save me time. It'll come back in 110 seconds anyways. I don't know how the taunt missed her. I don't think he knows that he's alone. He's wasting mana right now. There we go. Hello, Janus. Oh. I mean, it's the same reason I basically used my ult, so I can understand that. We can gank her. She's way too far up. I need shoes pretty soon. I move way too slow. Fortunately, I don't think... Yeah, Ganesh's shoes have focus, so that's fine. She beats that, alright. I can't save him, alright. I'm gonna die here, aren't I? Yeah, the Ganesh played that really well.
I believe in you.
Ugh.
I'm going to use this.
Ganesh as a support functions better than Athena. Athena does more, well, Athena technically does more damage, but the support abilities of Ganesh are just way better. Ganesh suffers from less versatility though. Mostly through the global ult. Athena's global ult is definitely one of the major selling points of Athena. And something that Ganesh really can't replicate. He's gonna be ahead of me now slightly. Yeah, he's about probably, if I had to say, half a level ahead. That's a rough estimation. But we'll catch up. Right now, mostly right now, it's because I haven't got my Gauntlet of Thebes up enough yet. Interesting. I was kind of expecting him to go pretty full on to Pele there, but he did not. Fair enough. Ward that really quick. And I'm going to want to ward... no, let's ward a bit more aggressively here.
Enemy missing. This is all part
There we
of
go.
my plan.
Looks like Rama's actually... Oh, she is 2 levels ahead of him. Uh-huh. Not today, Zerg.
I challenge you.
It's a bit of a tango, but we really didn't need to. Okay, you're going pretty aggressive on this for some bizarre reason. Not really sure why. Why did he waste his ult on that? I mean, I understand his ult is on a massively short cooldown, but it still doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I wish Janus had finished those off, but he wasn't going to. She is wicked high right now. Where is... Yeah, she's way back there already. There's just not a whole lot that I can do about that, because once she kills Ram, she can just vanish into the ether and just go. It's just so difficult to keep up with. I'm a little surprised that hit me, to be honest. But it's not a big deal. Here's the extremely aggressive Ganesh for no reason. You're gonna hit me just for, I think, free damage? I don't really understand what his goal here is. He's not fighting for anything right now. It's not like they need the,
Time to turn this battle in our favor.
Oh, you're still here. I'm dead. Oh, I shouldn't have gone in so quickly. I should have waited. If I were to... we'll have to see. Okay, good. So Ganesh for me, so that's fine. Ganesh is still slightly ahead of me. That was Pele for... That was 2 for... I died for 2 kills for our team, so that's actually a good trade. I don't really have a problem with that. This would be 66. Yeah, we can wait a couple of seconds for Shoes of Focus. I need those cooldowns. There we go. Alright, so Janus is just going to get the free mid tower, which is pretty huge. The gank in left lane was pretty huge. They should be able to take that tower now. I'm going to go right lane to help Ram out. I'm going to clear this really quick, actually. I'm going to help Janus, actually, because he's going to be going for his damage buff pretty soon. There he goes. I'm going to clear out one more wave, I think, over here. I'm going to go ahead and put a... Okay, nope, there's a tsunami, so we're not going to do that. Oh, Ram's here. Wait, we can potentially ambush her. Nope. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm going to head mid and see if Hera's still around. Oh, yes, she is. takes too long for me to charge up. Oh, Ram went back. If I'd been paying more attention to the minimap, I would have seen that and gone back. I was not paying enough attention to the minimap. That is entirely my fault. That is 100% on me for not realizing he'd gone back. Now, what do I need for magic protections? They don't have a whole lot of self-heal. Do they have... Okay, so Morgana does not have any lifesteal currently. Neither does Izanami. Daji doesn't. Hera doesn't. Ganesh doesn't. Okay, so we're going to go with Genji's guard for now, because I don't see a need for anti-heal at this point in time. Okay, good. Can we push down this wave and get something out of this? Can you heal off of this? You've actually built lifesteal, so you should be okay if you clear this out. That's fine. She did save his life. She's absolutely correct. Is Hera in mid still? She really wants to thank you, but he just doesn't care.
You're welcome. Cancel that. Thanks.
I'll thank her. I'll give them the thanks if they need. You shouldn't be tanking this. I should be tanking this. Come on. You back it up. There we go. Alright, good. They were way late on that rotation. We telegraphed that kind of badly. I'm not sure why they didn't see that a little bit earlier. How is Ram doing compared to Izanami? Not too bad. Not as bad as he was before, so he is catching up slowly. There's not a whole lot for me to do right now. I suppose I can try and gank right lane, but I think I'm going to be too late to that. Okay, there we go. That was not a great ultimate. Ah, man. I'm not going to be able to fight you. There's Ganesh, there's Ganesh. No, what are you doing? That was a small miracle. Nice job. Come on. There's... I'm not sure I can get her out of this. I can distract the, I can if I sacrifice myself for the good of her. Run. Oh! Eat that, Argus, you turd. Yeah, that's what I thought, punk. Get out of here.
You're welcome.
Oh.
Thanks.
That was very close. That was very close. And I finally have Gauntlet of Thebes maxed. Guy. I will save you from yourself if I need to. Still behind Ganesh, which isn't too bad of a problem. I'm gonna just chill here and heal up. I am somehow not getting the assist credit from those. Probably way out of range. If I was Ganesh, I'd probably have gotten that. Let me see, he's only one level down. I'm gonna help him out with this, because I do still need some experience in gold. There we go. And let me see. I have enough HP 5 where I shouldn't massively need to go back. I could if I wanted to. Okay, there's Daji, and yeah, this is not a great scene. Let me charge up my dash just in case I need to do something about this. No, we're good? Alright, I'm gonna go back then because they're all hanging around right there.
Be careful, right?
I would not have made that call personally. I don't think that's a great idea. I don't see anyone in immediate need. Okay, yes there is.
It's time to turn this battle in
Strike
our
that,
favor.
reverse it.
Enemy ultimate down.
Who's ult? I don't think this is a good idea. You set up an ambush, you say, but then we just charge at them. Oh, you are going in. Alright, hold up.
Turn and fight.
Why are they all going for Ganesh? Oh, I whiffed that completely. That's okay, she picked it up. What are you doing? Oh my goodness. I am 100% sure that my Gauntlet of Thebes just saved her life. She had too little health for that to be anything other than Gauntlet of Thebes, saving her just barely. Slap her. There we go. She had Aussie activated, so that was very dangerous. Yes. That's actually a good call now. No, I can tank. Oh my goodness, he's... If I'd tanked that, he could have been just fine. He could have done his Lotus whatever, healed himself up without any kind of problem. He did not need to go back at that point. The only person alive was Morgana, and she was all the way in the left. Yes, his tower was under attack, but... I mean, Gold Fury, though. I suppose, in the long run, the tower is a little bit more important, but still, you called Gold Fury attack, and then you don't want to attack the Gold Fury. How does that make sense? Alright, so what about now? Anti-healing. The Izanami has lifesteal. We still don't have enough healing where we need to do anything with anti-heal. That was destructive. We're gonna grab Blink. I'm gonna want to be pretty aggressive about this. Janus is in trouble, so we're gonna go right to him. He's no longer in trouble. We're gonna go see... Is Pele actually gonna need my help here? Nope. Yes, actually. Kind of? It wasn't a kill steal if she was not catching up to Daji. What happened to Ram? Did Izanami just blast him out of the sky or what? I wish I had a beat on her HP. Alright. I'm kind of worried about Janus. She's level 19 already? What the heck? I am not fighting that. That's just suicide. Can I take this really quick? There's Pele, that's fine. She's nearby if I need her. There we go. Janus should be able to clear his own damage camp at this point. And again, our Pele is level 20, so the level 19 Izanami shouldn't really surprise me that much. Okay. I don't know what Ne Zha's... Well, I suppose Ne Zha can afford to free roam, really. That was a good play. That... Alright, sure. No steal kill that time. There we go. Yeah? I can body block your shots when you power them up. Okay, decent damage there. I died for not much reason, but... Okay, good. She took Izanami. Ram took right lane, which is interesting. It works, it's not a wrong choice there, but it's fairly interesting that he didn't chase Izanami, but considering how far behind he is, I can understand that choice. Trying to decide. There's a little bit of lifesteal on Morgana. Still not sure that there's enough to necessarily justify the building of anti-heal. Let me see here. Let me think about this for a hot second. I guess we'll go for it. I don't need to ult anyone right now. Ram should be fine in mid. I think it's just Ganesh in mid lane right now. Oh no, there's Hera too, okay. Ganesh and I are even level-wise, roughly speaking. I'm a little ahead in gold, but that's just because he died in that last fight, so he didn't get anything out of it. I'm just looking for the assist creds right now. I'll go ahead and wipe one wave here. Oh no, we have Morgana here. I'm just going to follow Pele, honestly, at this point. Because I can basically free rotate now that I have my ult up. There we go. Takes care of that problem. We can now do something here. Looks like we have the possibility of killing Ganesh right here. The zombie's just wandering around over there by a... That was destructive. What the heck? There we go. Wow. This Pele is stupid fed right now. Or just take it. Just take it. Just take it. Alright, no one's taking it. There's Janus. We're about to get minions in here. Good. Good. Okay. They just took out his tsunami, so that's everyone on the enemy team. I was just gonna say, we have a golden opportunity to take Fire Giant right now. No one cares. Minions alone will not take that Phoenix. Gotta take this Fire Giant in fast. Ram doesn't know not to stand behind the support in a Fire Giant fight. There we go. And she's just dead. Nice. Hera, okay. And Daji's right there.
Ultimate is ready. Be right back.
I can ult back. I want to grab this. Go in here with this. Clean. I'm really not concerned about Ganesh. Very nice. Also, if you're ever against an Athena, ever, I've never mentioned this before, if you are ever against an Athena, do not ever build Sprint. It makes taunt more effective. Just, in all honesty, just don't do it. I don't care what you're doing. Don't build Sprint. You could see how much that Ganesh was moving towards my shield wall when I taunted him because his Sprint was active. Sprint will get you killed against Athena. So do not ever build Sprint against an Athena. It is absolute. I don't care what you think it's worth. It is not. Everyone is pursuing this. Alright. They're all after Pele. Okay. I'm in trouble now. I'm gonna die. There we go. Everyone backed off. Did anyone call retreat? No, it doesn't look like it. Fair enough. I mean, I noticed people were kind of hovering around, but I wasn't 100%. And then Pele went back in, and I'm like, well, let me try and save Pele. Nope. That was a mistake. That was not the move. We're going to go for Sentinel's Embrace right now, and then we're going to have to decide what we want to do. I'm wondering if I might want to go for Mystical Mail at this point, just for just a little bit of damage, just for fun. It'll also help me find Izanami, which would actually be incredibly helpful. Yeah, I might go for Mystical Mail for that. Even if that just kind of tips the scales in favor of Mystical Mail. Help find Izanami. Yes, please. Thank you, and good night. I'm ahead, so it's not really going to be a huge problem either way. Get a little bit of extra damage in there. It's not going to matter that much damage-wise, but still. There we go. just going to tank these for her. Oh, one survived. Interesting. Her build is interesting. She's going for a primarily auto-attack focus, which I find interesting. It is working out for her, but it's not something you normally see on Pele. I'll have to look at that and discuss it a bit more thoroughly in the end game. Or the post game. Can we? Yeah, we can get this. Alright. That's good. That's good.
Gank middle lane.
We can get somebody here. We can get 2 people here.
Attack.
I know what you're up to.
Stand your ground.
Good. Nice.
I challenge
That didn't hit her? Alright. Oh, Pele for the win. Shoot. Dead. Alright, alright. Nice job, Janus. Thank you. We win. That's it. She was their last hope. Now that she's dead, there's nothing else. They have nothing else. Boom. Alright, so that was a fairly interesting match. Let's talk about this. I'm rather enthusiastic about talking about this. Okay. Mostly what I want to talk about is the builds. The actual team comps weren't that unusual, except for the solo lane. The solo lane was a bit spicy, but that's not unusual. It's pretty common to see spicy solo lanes nowadays. I'm all for it. It makes matches much more interesting. But let's talk about this match for a hot minute. Alright, for me personally, I could have been a little bit faster on the ults. I think I missed a couple of good opportunities to ult into a fight. Personally, but that's something we'll never really truly know. But in my opinion, I think there were 1 or 2 fights that I could have gotten into. Remember, that I could have gotten into faster. One good jungle. This to he go gank. What? Wait, well, hold on. This is a whole other language we're speaking here. Yes. Very wise. Don't have the Daji Hevra XDJ. Yeah. This is so pathetic. What is that? I am assuming that they do not have English as their native language or they're trolling. I can't tell. What is this? Daji Riddix yeah and sell the starter. Selling the starter as a jungler isn't necessarily a bad idea. It really depends on the build you're going for, so I'm not going to blame the Daji for that. But now that the apparent drama is over, let's actually talk about the builds. But yeah, there were a couple of fights that I think I could have gotten into better if I'd ulted into them. There were a couple in the mid game where I could have probably turned that around and gotten into some fights and saved some lives, but then again, could I have actually saved them, or would I have just died with them? It's a question you have to ask yourself as Athena whenever you're ulting into a situation. Is ulting in here actually going to save any lives? Because the answer isn't always necessarily yes. And you may not necessarily recognize that until after you've clicked the attack key, and you've selected your target, and you're starting the ult, and then you're assessing the situation, and then you realize that you've just made a grave error and it's too late to do anything about it. I've done this many a time as Athena. Usually what happens is, if a situation that I'm ulting into goes south, and I realize this while I'm ulting, it's usually because an extra enemy has appeared that I didn't see when I first started channeling the ult, which happens occasionally. But things like that. But overall, my build, I was really tempted throughout to build anti-healing earlier, but there really was no need. They really didn't have a whole lot of self-heal. Izanami built Aussie midway through the game, and besides that, there was no form of self-heal. Ganesh just had HP 5, which isn't really going to do you much good in a combat situation, so there really wasn't a need. I built Pestilence just because at that point Hera was possibly going into, and did wind up going into, Spirit of the Magus. Same thing with Morgana, and Izanami had Ozzy, of course, and that you could see there was a fight in right jungle near the second tower, near the tier 2 tower, and between the tier 2 tower and the Void Camp, where the Izanami almost saved herself just through the power of Ozzy. So I really wanted to shut that down, especially since I wasn't sure what else anybody else was going to build. Now, it turned out not to be hugely necessary, but I don't regret building Pestilence at that point. So I'm okay with that. My last item was, like I said, going to be Mystical Mail, just so I could find Izanami a little bit better, do a little bit of damage at least. Janus is interesting. The Janus, for some reason, and I think this is really the problem here, is that Janus built Sacrificial Shroud, and while this can in fact increase your damage by quite a substantial amount, this is true, Janus really doesn't want to be losing 5% of maximum health. Now, there's a reason for this. Janus basically operates by flitting in and out of fights, using portals, using the line that increases your move speed. Taking 5% of your maximum health every time you bust out a portal means that Janus never enters a fight at full HP, and in fact kills himself a little bit each time, every time he tries to portal through the jungle. This is really not good. Yes, it can increase his damage, but Janus uses his damaging abilities as movement abilities as well. So Sacrificial Shroud is a really bad idea on Janus, and this is why why Uncleanly Hero went 2 and 3 and 17. That last death probably had something to do with the fact that Janus was killing himself before even getting to the fight. I don't like Sacrificial Shroud on Janus just for that reason. If you are a mage who does not have a damaging movement ability, Sacrificial Shroud is fine. Janus's portal both can do damage and therefore costs 5% of maximum health, and also is a movement ability. So Sacrificial Shroud on Janus can really hurt. Otherwise, the build is fine. I mean, you've got good old Chronos Pendant, which is really nice. This seems to have been a first item, and this can work in certain situations. I would say Janus is one of the few mages where this is a justified pickup, because it does allow Janus to rotate faster and more often. So this is actually pretty significant for Janus, especially a jungling Janus. You really want to see a Chronos Pendant on there. Usually is the third item. Shoes, of course. Soul Gem. I'm not the biggest fan of Soul Gem on Janus because he's only got 2 abilities that consistently do damage, and while you can almost always guaranteed hit those, you're still basically only activating Soul Gem every other full kit use. Or every other burst, in other words. Removing the ult, which of course has a longer cooldown timer and so isn't necessarily a consistent source of Soul Gem stacks, you're only really getting this every 2 bursts. So I am not a huge fan of Soul Gem on Janus. I understand that it offers some great core stats, including 10% cooldown, and that's probably why Janus built it in the first place. A little bit of lifesteal, a little bit of cooldown. I am just not a big fan of Soul Gem on Janus. Spear of the Magus is good on pretty much everyone. Again, though, Janus only has 2 abilities and his ult that triggers this, because his line does not trigger this, so this isn't something I don't usually build this on Janus. I'm usually going for 100% pure power, penetration, and just running with that. I think what really the problem with Janus was, and Rod of Tahuti, Rod of Tahuti is okay on Janus. Again, I prefer using this on mages that can at least in some way utilize their auto attacks, and Janus just doesn't. But the magical penetration Janus really needed, I agree. I think what the Janus would have been better off with is going with the other cloak, the one that gives you more lifesteal, dropping Soul Gem in favor of Bancroft, which would have given Janus more power, and with Janus's passive, allow him to pull more damage off with his abilities, because his passive, essentially, if you don't know, Janus's passive essentially gives him extra magical scaling on his damaging abilities every time he goes over his line or through a portal, up to 2 stacks. I think it's 15% each time, so you can eventually chain up to 30% extra magic power damage added onto your abilities, which is pretty substantial. But go with Bancroft's gem instead of Soul Gem here. I'm sorry, Bancroft's Talon. Go with Typhon's Fang instead of Spear of the Magus. And maybe instead of Rod of Tahuti, maybe you want to do Charon's Coin or Ob Shard for some extra magical penetration. Really punch through the enemy's defenses really well. Or potentially Spear of Desolation works incredibly well on Janus, because Spear of Desolation offers Janus a unique benefit in that since his portal doubles as both a damaging ability and an escape ability for Janus, Spear of the Magus is pretty important, because if you get a killer assist as Janus, this means that your escape/damaging portal is up a couple of seconds faster. So now you can either press the assault or get out of dodge as you need. So I personally am a really big fan of Spear of the Magus on Janus. It gives him a lot more leeway, a lot more breathing room to be able to attack and retreat all in one fight, which is really important for Janus, and Uncleanly Hero recognizes that because Chronos Pendant was rushed. This is why I don't necessarily have a problem with Vampiric Shroud being built, because Janus can still use the little bit of physical protections to give him some extra time to get through a portal in a really ugly situation. But I think that's what I probably would have done instead. Mainly it's these two items that I kind of question. Rod of Tahuti is overhyped, so I know a lot of people build that. It is good, but I think it's being built way more than it should be, considering all the circumstances. And these two I just am not fond of Janus because he doesn't trigger them as often as you would want. Now, the Rama also does something fairly interesting in his build. He goes for Maniken Hidden Blade. I'm not sure why. I mean, the damage reduction and the physical protection are really nice, but that's only 60 physical power, and if you have not taken or dealt damage in the last 5 seconds, and you hit an enemy, god, monster, or boss, they take 20% of their current health, and they are slowed. Now, Ram has a slow on his Astral Arrows. He doesn't need Maniken Hidden Blade to do that. He also has access to Poison Star if he was really concerned about it. I'm not a huge fan of this, and I think this is a big part of the reason why Ram had such a problem here, is throughout the game, was that he wasn't building anything even remotely towards what you would want on a mage. I mean, you could have gone Death's Toll, although frankly he had Devourer's Gauntlet, so he didn't need Death's Toll. I think what would have been another really good option would have been the Golden Arrow, or the Gilded Arrow. I can't remember which one the level 1 is. I can't remember the level 1's name. But he could have gone with either of those and done just fine. Either of those would have been better pickups. I do question the Maniken's Hidden Blade. Beyond the Maniken Hidden Blade, the rest of his build is amazing. The rest of his build is fine. It's just this Maniken Hidden Blade that I really don't like. And again, as almost always, you can see this reflected in the KDA. Now, see, that's the thing about supports that a lot of people have a problem with, is supports are supposed to have a bad KDA. I have 20 assists, I have the most assists out of my team, which is the way it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to have the most assists. I'm supposed to die more than I kill, because supports shouldn't be getting kills. The one time when I got the kill near the Fire Giant from Daji, I only killed Daji there when I had assessed the situation, and I recognized that even if Pele were to eventually catch up to Daji, it was going to take Pele too long. Pele had better things to do than that right there, and I had my ult that I could have used to help someone out if they really needed it, so I swept in, finished the Daji off because I had that opportunity, and freed Pele up to do something more important with her massive lead, because she didn't need to be chasing around a very underpowered Daji past the Fire Giant. She just didn't need to be there. She didn't need to be doing that, and there were better things for her to be doing. But like most players, and I am guilty of this as well, so I'm not criticizing Time Bandit for this, because I do this just as often, as is evident in my various videos I've put up, that she was just hungry for the kill. Hungry for the kill. I do it all the time myself, I totally understand, but I only killed the Daji to free up the Pele. That was the only intentional kill. My other kill was not intentional, I don't believe. I might possibly have killed the Izanami because Ram missed some shots. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But my score is what it's supposed to look like for a support. This is how it's supposed to look. Janus could have gone for, the fact that Janus was 1 kill down from his deaths is reflected by the somewhat unorthodox build here. Same thing with Ram. Slightly unorthodox build here. Didn't get quite as many kills as maybe he should have. But, the rest of the build is fine. Devourer's Gauntlet, fantastic. Ninja Tabi, great. Wind Demon, fantastic. Executioner, yes. Although, again, I am not fond of the combination of Wind Demon and Executioner, but I know it's the meta right now. Deathbringer, yes. It's just this Maniken Hidden Blade. It does not make sense. It's not enough damage reduction or protection to make it worth it. And that passive is current health, not maximum health. He would have been better off with Chin's size than this. Now, the Pele does do something interesting going into Protector of the Jungle. This is fairly meta. Pele really puts this to good use. I think this was a great upgrade. That's fantastic. But moving on, we have the Crusher, which clearly, I'm pretty sure this was, the boots were sold, Elixir of Speed was purchased, and this was purchased instead. I don't think this was her first item here. If it was, then the Aussie was the replacement. I don't know which, but these are both really good pickups here, since Pele gains some ability and auto attack lifesteal. Personally, though, and I understand that Aussie was built because it was the end. Probably Aussie, I believe, was the item that replaced boots. And if that's the case, then I can understand why Soul Eater wasn't built. But I am a huge fan of Soul Eater on Pele. Penetration, cooldown, power, mana, lifesteal on your auto attacks, lifesteal on your abilities. It's basically doubling the strength of your passive ability when you're under half health with Pele, and that's usually why I buy that. But again, I do believe Aussie was built last. This was her last item. The Crusher, of course, just reflects the passive. Transcendence is an amazing pickup on Pele. Now, keep in mind, I want to send out a warning here. Yes, Pele evolved Transcendence. Yes, Pele put this to extremely good use. But keep in mind that when Pele purchased this, when Pele started Transcendence, Pele was already pretty ahead. Pele could afford to build Transcendence. If you are behind, don't build this as a jungler. If you are a ADC or you are whatever, a regular laner, maybe you can get away with building Transcendence a little late. Maybe. It depends on the situation. But for Pele, Pele was only able to make this work because Pele was already pretty ahead. So don't just say, oh, Pele did amazing with this. Yes, Pele did amazing with this because Pele was already ahead and was just compounding that advantage. Stone-Cutting Sword was a fairly interesting pickup, but I understand why. Not a bad choice at all. I do prefer something a little bit more flexible, but this makes a lot of sense. Especially since Pele can, in fact, keep up with enemies a lot of the time without necessarily needing to slow them down through Frostbound or whatever. So this is not a bad pickup. This is decent. I think possibly, and this depends on personal preference, but the Razor Blade, I can't remember what it's called, the katana that gives you extra lifesteal when your abilities are used, I think that might have been a potentially better pickup here, but that maybe, I'm not 100% sure. And the only reason I say that is because the enemy team only had two sources of physical damage that were going to care, Daji and Izanami. Izanami, granted, was a huge threat and was going to be a problem. Daji was so far behind at that point that you really didn't need to counterbuild her, so there were a couple of other options that Pele could have gone into rather than Stone-Cutting Sword. I don't mind Stone-Cutting Sword, it's an okay pickup, but I think there were better alternatives at the time. I think Pele was just so far ahead it didn't matter. And I think in more balanced circumstances, this might have been a mistake to pick up here. And Angela was just obviously for the protections, because they actually had some pretty good. Oh, you know what? She just wanted the protections. I think then Void Shield probably would have been better. And I don't mind having two of the same aura, so 2 Void Shields would have been fine. I mean, if Ne Zha died, then Pele could be the backup Void Shield aura. So I don't really have a huge problem with that. Now, the Ne Zha also does something fairly interesting. First off, I think Ne Zha probably started with the Fighter's Mask, I believe. Either that or Ne Zha sold their starter item, which would be a bit interesting as a solo lane. But the pickup of Caduceus Shield is fantastic on Ne Zha. A solo lane Ne Zha wants those extra protections. A little bit of power here, a little bit of health, protections, increase your healing. It's a fantastic pickup, especially since it also benefits Pele's healing as well. Now, this might have been the reason why Janus went into Soul Gem. Maybe not, I don't know, but it could be connected. The Angela was another great pickup here. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people might think to yourselves, why not Angela first? Why wouldn't you build this first? There's two reasons for that. First off, in the solo lane, against a magic solo lane opponent, you have to deal with both the minions who do physical damage and the enemy god who does magic. So, for that reason, you have both protections being increased here. So it makes more sense to have a dual protection item as your first item, so that way you can box the enemy magic solo lane and take less damage from the minion poke that will result. Second, Caduceus' shield, with its increase in healing, allowed Ne Zha to sustain through fights and in the lane just better overall. Especially if he could get his hands on the healing Scorpion aura. This also, I believe, affects that. So that's more healing for Ne Zha. So Ne Zha already would have had higher pressure than Morgana, because Ne Zha's better at 1v1s fights than Morgana is. So Ne Zha, by building Caduceus' shield, was able to better leverage his advantage by going for the healing Scorpion and killing that and getting that healing aura. And then Enchli was built for the cooldown reductions, the power, and a little bit more magic protections against his magic opponent, because by that time he had the physical protections he needed to ward off the minions. Then Void Shield had to be built to both bolster Ne Zha's power and give him some physical protections against Izanami and Da Ji. This, so far, is really awesome. Then we have whatever this was. The main problem I have with Ne Zha's build, and this is a quibble, is Rage. The only problem I have with Rage, is that it does not boost your ult in any way, shape, or form. Your ult is already guaranteed criticals. Rage does nothing for this. Deathbringer boosts up those crits. You could go with Poison Star and reduce their healing. Oh, no, that's Shadow Star, excuse me. You could go with Shadow Star and reduce their healing, in case they're connected to an Aphrodite, which occasionally happens, which is fairly amusing, but nevertheless. There were a couple of other, I think, better options. You could have gone with the other one there that reduces cooldowns whenever you get a critical hit, or it has some kind of effect on abilities when you get a critical hit. But there was pretty much any other critical strike item would have been better here. For Ne Zha, just because that ult. It just doesn't benefit the ult in any way, shape, or form. That's my only real problem here. The rest of the build is fantastic. And Ne Zha did really well despite the interesting pickup of Rage, because the Ne Zha versus Morgana solo lane fight heavily favors Ne Zha. Just because he can sash, ring, crit, or ult if he really wants to, and just absolutely slap Morgana into next week, basically. Now, what happened with the enemy team? What really went down here? Well, Da Ji, I'm not really sure. See, the Da Ji versus Pele matchup isn't for or against either of them. They do fairly average against each other. There's no particular advantages or disadvantages inherent to that setup. Pele's a little bit faster, broadly speaking, and as a result can farm and gank a little bit faster, and I think what happened, and I'm not 100% sure about this, because I wasn't paying enough attention to their lane, I was too busy focusing on my own, for obvious reasons, but what I think probably happened is Pele cleared the early camps, the initial camps first, got to mid lane first, helped Janus clear the minion wave, and Da Ji aggressed, and died because our team still had minions in the mid lane. This is just what I think roughly happened, because Pele can move a little faster than Da Ji once she gets the volcano thing. Now, whether or not she got that at the beginning, I don't know. But what I can absolutely guarantee is that at some point from level 3 onwards, Pele was able to outpace Da Ji and either counter-ganked Da Ji or just was able to surprise Da Ji in some way because of that increased movement speed, and then Da Ji started dying, and that snowballed, and then here we are with a 412 Da Ji. I think that's really what happened. Another interesting thing is the purchase of crits. Now, at this point in time, Pele was building Hybrid. She had built pure damage up until this point, and now Pele was starting to work, or actually at this point probably already had, Stonecutting Sword. So Da Ji's response is crits. I'm not really sure why. Da Ji is a lot like Pele or Tsukiyomi, where she kind of interchanges between auto attacks and abilities. So I don't think Da Ji necessarily uses auto attacks often enough to justify the pickup of Rage here, or even Deathbringer. I think Da Ji would have been a little better off going with some kind of a hybrid mix as well. Going, splashing in a Void Shield, which their team didn't have at all, or possibly a Berserker's or a Glad Shield, really depends. Another problem Daji has, which Pele really doesn't have that problem, is Daji has no pen. I mean, she's got the 15 on the Crusher, but consider Pele. Pele has 15 on the Crusher. Then we have another 15 on Ossie, that's 30 total. Then we have the 30 protection reduction on Stonecutting Sword, which is down to 65. And when you consider the details of a lot of enemies, you are looking at a grand whopping hairy total of boom, 30, 60, a drop of 60 protections. Oh look, oh look. I don't know why they're showing her protections as being so low right now. They should honestly be roughly 61 or 62. But you're basically pulling away all of her protections, all of Izanami's protections, all of Hera's protections, all of Morgana, almost all of Morgana's protections. She's got 74. Basically, Pele was stripping almost 100% of the protections of the entire enemy team except Ganesh. And the only way to stop this would have been to splash in a little bit of physical protection. But Daji chooses crits when she already doesn't have the penetration to make that work in the first place, because in a sustained fight, Daji was stripping away only 15, which after 3 auto attacks, Pele was able to just scrounge up an extra 15 to help. This is ultimately where the problem with Daji was. Daji didn't have the penetration, the punch. Daji didn't have the speed, the penetration, the damage output. Daji was too slow and didn't hit hard enough. And that is essentially why Daji lost this matchup. Daji should have built the speed shoes to keep up with Pele. Yes, it would have meant less damage. Daji would have had to have avoided conflicts with Pele, but Daji could have kept a pace with Pele's farming, ganked the other side of whatever side, ganked the opposite side that Pele was on, and just basically play around the Pele rather than trying to confront the Pele, which is apparently what Daji tried. The Izanami did well because the Izanami started out, I believe, with Death's Toll rather than whatever the heck Rama was doing with starter items, so the Izanami just had a stronger start. I believe Maniken Hidden Blade is a part of the Maniken Scepter. Yes, it is. And if Ram had gone into the other version of this would have made a lot more sense. The Maniken Hidden Blade is quite questionable, but the Maniken Scepter by itself is still not the strongest dual lane hunter start, because it doesn't really offer you a whole lot, unless the enemy team has an entirely physical dual lane. Maniken Scepter is not as good as Death's Toll, it's not as good as Gilded Arrow, it's not as good as any of that, and I'm almost 100% confident I remember seeing the Death's Toll on Izanami. I don't quite remember. She sold it for some reason for more crits. I think that was a desperation move, to be completely honest. But the Izanami played well because she had a better starting item at the start. That's basically what it comes down to, because the Ram versus Izanami matchup is roughly equal. Approximately. And I think it came down to the fact that Ram was building a little oddly built an out of meta hunter starting item, and I think that's, I don't often ascribe to the meta, because I think a lot of what's in the meta is overhyped. I think the meta is formed when players watch the pros play and they just try to imitate that build, because that's just what the pros were building, without understanding the context of what the pros were building. And that's really how the meta for SMITE forms. And I think, while I appreciate Ram's attempt at splashing out of the meta, this enemy team was not the enemy team to be playing Maniken's Scepter in, because they only had 2 physicals, and even then, you would have to be expecting a physical support to make Maniken's work. It's the only time I've gotten it to work personally through experimentation, and this was not the enemy comp to build Maniken Scepter against. That's basically what it comes down to. That's why the Izanami did really well. That's why the Ram had a little bit of a problem. Izanami's build is pretty fine otherwise, other than the strange decision to sell her starter item rather than upgrade it, because I'm pretty sure she had Death's Toll, but she wanted those crits. The Hera broke even because the Hera built pretty standard stuff. Some of this does require Argus to be there. but she had Chronos Pendant. Now, I do kind of wonder why she went with Gem of Focus over, say, this one, the Pendulum of Ages, which I think would have worked slightly better with Hera. Personally, she did not have 40% cooldown, and she easily could have gotten that just by building Pendulum of Ages. I don't know why she went with this one. It's not necessarily a bad choice. It's fine as a choice, but I think considering what Hera was trying to do, which was use Argus to reduce the healing and increase the damage received by us, my team, that she was clearly trying to get Argus out as often as possible, and Pendulum of Ages works better for that. So that's a little bit of an inconsistency in her build, but beyond that, it's fine. Morgana's problem... Well, Morgana has a couple of problems. First off, Morgana did not build the Vampiric Shroud. That's problem one. Now, before you say, well, not all magic solos need Vampiric Shroud, you're absolutely correct. Not all magic solos need Vampiric Shroud. But if you, as a magic solo lane, do not have any form of natural sustain in your kit, you need Vampiric Shroud. I don't care. Morgana does not have any sustain in her kit. She needed Vampiric Shroud. I don't care how much that 20% cooldown you think is going to save you. You need sustain. It's important. And Morgana did not have any, and that is why she lost so badly to Ne Zha. And again, Ne Zha is already just better at 1v1s than Morgana is. That's just a fact. But Ne Zha was also building Rage for some unearthly reason. But that's balanced by the fact Morgana just didn't have sustain. So all Ne Zha really had to do was poke her with the ring until she was low enough to sash, then ults. Because she also did not start with beads. She started with Aegis. Now, she may have been expecting Pele as her opponent, in which case the Aegis choice can be excused. That's understandable. That's okay. I can get behind the use of Aegis against Pele. Makes sense. Pendulum of Ages still doesn't make sense, though, because Pele can still out-sustain Morgana. But that would be the one... I mean, the rest of the build is fine with Morgana. All of these work great on her because she hits multiple times with a lot of her abilities. So multiple hits. You've got Divine Ruin refreshes. You've got Spirit of the Magus refreshes. It's fine. The key here was Pendulum of Ages was chosen over Vampiric Shroud, which she needed for the sustain. I also think that maybe instead of Charon's Coin, she perhaps could have gone into Lifesteal. Personally, understand that this provides a lot of HP and MP5, but you have to be so confident you're going to get those early game kills to evolve this in time for this to be useful. And by the time this did evolve, we were at least in the mid game, if not the late game already, where that HP and MP5 wasn't going to matter as much. I understand it still has useful magical penetration, but so does Typhon's Fang and Obshard. I just don't think that this was the move in this matchup. I think if she'd been against another magic damage solo lane, if she'd been against somebody who didn't have any sustain at all, this would have been a better choice. But Ne Zha has much more sustain naturally in his kit than Morgana does. She has 0. So this wasn't ever going to actually work out too well in her favor, because she was essentially... there was so little chance she was going to be able to evolve Charon's Coin against a Ne Zha solo lane that it was just an unwise choice. And it's not necessarily that the item is bad on Morgana, it was just bad for her matchup. That's about it. Beyond that, I would have to say, yeah, it's fine. Again, we have the overuse of Rod of Tahuti, but I think there were a couple of better items that could have been used here. I think Morgana could have gone with the book there that does percentage of health damage. I think that could have been more effective on either of them, in all honesty. Sure, you lose 10% penetration and you lose, what, 30 or 40 power? So what? Your abilities are going to be losing roughly 20 damage, which isn't a whole lot at the end game. I mean, come on. The Ganesh played fine. Ganesh played mostly fine. I think Ganesh wasted a lot of time with me. I'm not sure why. I kind of returned the favor in the mid-game a little bit, just as a tease, but we both kind of paid too much attention to each other. That was just as much my fault as theirs. The build was fine. Their gameplay was fine, roughly equivalent to mine. The Ganesh was fine. The Ganesh was mostly just crippled by the inability to really do anything really effective in the jungle because Daji was so far behind. And I think that's really Ganesh's only issue here. Yeah, I do appreciate the pickup of Witchblade against Ne Zha, Pele, and Ram. That's really effective, especially since by this point Pele was clearly expressing an interest in auto attacks because I guarantee you by this time she had Stone Cutting Sword. So this was actually a good pickup in the circumstances. Beyond that, I mean, Pridwin is okay on Ganesh. I do like this on Ganesh. That's about all I really have to say about this match. Thank you all very much for joining me. If you like this, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, what have you, please leave them down in the comments below. I do read them. And as always, have a great 24 hours.